You're trying to play God. You're like, you sinned, but you're not allowed in. You sinned, but you're in. You can't tell me.
We all live in glass houses.
Yes, exactly. And I'm just going to tell you, it's wrong. It's wrong that Pete Rose is not in the Hall of Fame. Step into the Fieldhouse, your front row seat to legendary victories and untold stories. Hey, I'm your host, Lance Leonard, breaking down sports from the inside out, along with co-host Jimmy Lackey. It's more than just a game. It's the Fieldhouse Podcast. Hey, welcome into the Fieldhouse Podcast. It's a production of the Kids Inc. Sports Network. I'm Lance Leonard. We have Jimmy Lackey, CEO, main man of Kids Inc. here today with us. And hey, it's number 25, Jimmy, for us. We had a blast. We got a lot of great response from what's been going on. And we've had some unique experiences as we reach the quarter pole to get to 100. 100's our goal, maybe. Yep. I don't know, but 25. What have you enjoyed so far about this?
Just the process.
Yeah.
You know, what we do day in and day out around here is it changes. I mean, if you think you come to work here and you're going to do the same thing every day, it's just not that way.
Yeah.
And this is, honestly, this is a stress release for me.
Okay.
Come in here and just back off of everything and have a chance to sit down with you. You know, dadgum, Lance.
I like that.
You've been doing this a long time, and I've told you how grateful I am for you doing this. But for me to be able to come in here and talk sports and not necessarily have to talk about work, and I don't mind bringing up work issues. I don't mind at all. But just to be able to just put it all away, come in here, bring some guests in, have some conversations about things that take my mind off of day-to-day grind has been a really nice release for me. So if that's a selfish thing, so be it. But I also think from a Kids Inc. perspective, this is a really nice production that we're putting together. Obviously, Maddie's done a wonderful job, and someday we just need to let her sit here and we'll ask her questions.
Yeah, she needs to be a guest one day. I totally agree.
But and her background is unbelievable, and the things that she can do is amazing. And, you know, Ashley, and being involved in that too up until the time she left to go to Pantex. And so it's a nice release for me. That's what it is.
Yeah. I've enjoyed it too. Getting to meet like a Doug Lipinski, the new AD at WT. Eric Mims blew it out of the water, you know what I mean, as far as just, you know, we learned something. Then I've learned a lot about you. You know, I love when you visit about your dad and your days in Dumas and things like that. You know, I've enjoyed it too. You know, it's something I actually look forward to. I'm not saying it's just in my DNA now to do interviews. We've done so many over the years. But I really do enjoy this format much more than I thought I would.
Yeah, it's very relaxed. You know, I'm going to get a weekly text from Carlton Bogus up in Dumas. He was extremely impressed with Eric Mims.
Oh yeah,
you know,
yeah. I think we had Jerry Branch on, and Jerry obviously works for you, but he was watching. He turns around and goes, "Oh, that's your best one so far." Yeah. You know, and things like that. But yeah, no, I was very impressed with Eric the way he presented himself. Yeah. But
he's a family guy.
Yeah,
that's where it all comes back to.
And we love that the guests come in. Rick Cooper was amazing to me, the insights and stuff like
Rick's
that.
got 2 new twin grandsons.
Wow.
Corey had those twin baby boys this week.
Yeah.
So, yeah, shout out to Corey for doing what she did. She went 35 weeks with them, and they're doing well. Tyler and Thomas.
Yeah. So got another Tyler.
I haven't heard the story. She said she's going to tell the story behind the names. I haven't heard them yet.
We need to get her on sometime. She's a Nebraska national champion.
Yep.
Now, real quick, her husband is 7 foot?
He's about 6'8", 6'9".
6'9", okay.
George is a big old tall guy.
Yeah. George, great guy. Yeah,
he's tall. Those could be some tall kids, but she got 5 kids now. Can you believe that?
No, I think it's awesome.
Got 5, and I just texted Janie and Rick last night, told them congrats. I'm happy for them. I'm glad the kids are healthy. They were both over 6 pounds at 35 weeks.
That's good. The loss of large families is really. It used to be typical. Like I was a family of 4. That was pretty basic back in the 60s and 70s. You know what I mean? And so it's good to see large families coming back. I think everybody benefits. So, hey, we're just gonna chat it up today. We got a lot of topics going on. And we'll wait on Rock Rose. Everybody wants to know about that. You do a great job just,
Sure.
kind of keeping us enlightened what's going on.
Happy to talk about it.
And things like that, and especially since it's been kind of out there now. Probably had more questions the last 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks than I have maybe the previous 6 months over, hey, I hear it's, where is he? What's he doing,
Yeah.
One of the things, Jimmy, and this is no disrespect to the city of Amarillo, I want you to know the respect out there that the public has for you for raising this money your way. You know what I mean? Like raising it without involving something that's become very political. Okay, you'll miss that option. I know you kind of take that for granted. It was a decision you made a while back, but I'm going to say there's a lot more than I thought. Whenever I bring that up, like casually, they go, "Oh wow, yeah, I like that."
It all goes back to the first time I sat down. I brought about 30 business leaders into a room, and I mean competitors with one another, and sometimes probably don't get along with each other, but they're all supportive of Kids Inc. They can put those things aside when it comes to a program like ours. And here's the picture in a nutshell. We're fixing to be 80 years old in January. So this program, goes far beyond you and I.
Oh, yeah.
And I tell our staff, we are the caretakers for Mr. Farley's program today. That's who we are. We don't own anything here, but it's ours to run. And you're on our board, full transparency here, and you know this. The board allows us to run the show. And we're accountable to the board, particularly on the fiduciary side and the fiscal side of things. We have an audit every year, and we have people come in and crawl in and make sure that all the dollars are going where they're supposed to go. But at the end of the day, I've got a staff that is allowed to do their job.
Yeah.
Which allows me to dream and think big and consult with folks on our staff and consult with folks in the community. And so we bring in these set of business leaders and say, listen, did everybody check their egos at the front porch before they come in? That's exactly how I opened the meeting. If so, can we make this happen? And I present this sports complex to them. And I said, this is something that is desperately needed in our community. We've got things like this in Hereford. We've got things like this in Elk City where we serve other communities. We're overdue, and the only way we're going to get it done is if we do this privately. We couldn't do it at all if Rock Rose Development doesn't say, here's 90 acres of land. We would like for y'all to consider doing something here. This discussion doesn't even happen if Matt Griffith doesn't pick up the phone and call me and Suzanne and that group. And so, first and foremost, that's what they do. You look around at our schools and a lot of the housing developments where there's schools, Rock Rose donated a lot of that land, and then they built schools and neighborhoods around those. And so that goes back into the Atterbury family and goes back, years and years and years. And now, from a business standpoint, Rock Rose wants to add business to town because that's a great thing for the city of Amarillo is to add businesses. I don't want to bore our listeners, but here's the bottom line. Businesses bring in far more dollars to a city than residential developments do, by far. In fact, residential developments sometimes don't bring in any dollars. But businesses bring in dollars, particularly on the tax side of things. And so to have an opportunity to put a catalyst project out there like what we're doing, and then all the land that's in the periphery area out there to be able to say, this is coming, we're going to have all these people coming out here on a regular basis. Now these businesses are starting to dial Rock Rose Development saying, hey, when's this coming? We might be interested in one of those plats.
Yeah.
And that's how it works. And then ultimately the city gets new tax dollars. There's new sales tax. There's going to be hotel taxes. There's all kinds of things. And that's the business side of it. And so, it's been a fun process for me to be a part of. I can ask people for money all day long. All they can do is tell you no.
Yeah.
But you've got to have a product behind it. And it's not just the sports facility that we're looking at. It's the company behind it. This company's been here a long time, and this community's been good to it for a long time. And I think if there's one thing I've heard more in the last 2.5 years during this process than anything else is people saying, Jimmy, we appreciate you doing this without raising our property taxes.
Yeah, I think that's a big
deal. That's the gist of it.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair enough.
And
but
once
it's completed, Jimmy, you know the impact it's going to have on our
sure
youth.
I do.
On our youth, just going to a nice facility where they can enjoy what they like to do, and that's just play a game.
And I know people hear me say this all the time because I mean this. These are the things I think about. How many single parents do we have? How many grandparents do we have raising kiddos on fixed incomes? And they've got 3 kids playing. One's playing flag football, one's playing soccer, and one's a cheerleader. And they're at 3 different facilities at 3 different times a day. Gas money, travel, time, and the wear and tear on that parent because either mom and dad's working or grandparents are taking care of these kiddos. If we can take them to one place, they can park in one parking spot. And they may be out there for the day, but at least they're just in one spot and they're not wasting gas traveling all over town.
Yeah.
And we can have some food trucks out there and feed them. I think we're doing them a favor by having a facility like that. And those are the things that I think about on a daily basis because I know how many of those type situations we service here at Kids Inc.
Everybody wants to know a time frame, and it's unpredictable because of all the entities involved. You know, they got to all mesh.
Yep.
But ideally, I mean, your dream date is it a couple of years away?
Today. No, seriously. So Matt Griffith is the vice president of Rock Rose Development, and that's who I deal with front and center. And Matt and I talked last week, and I told him, I said, Matt, I really need to start honing in on a timeline. And so he sent out correspondence to all the engineers involved and everybody that's involved in the other stuff out there outside of what we're doing.
Yeah.
And said, listen, people are getting antsy. They're ready for this to go. He's pushed that button for me to say we need to be able to give Jimmy and their group a reasonable timeline as to when we can get started because they are ready to go. The board has authorized me to sign a contract and we're ready to move forward. And so we're just waiting. And it's nice, to be honest with you, it's nice to be in that position versus everybody going, when are you going to be ready to start?
Yeah.
We've got about $5 million to raise. That needs to be out there. But we've got about a year and a half timeline on the payout schedule on this deal. And so we've got 12 to 14 months cash in hand to get this taken care of. Those last 4 to 5 payments, we're going to need to raise some additional dollars to make sure we have that. But once we start, then I know that's when the ticker starts. And but I also know there's some folks out there that'll step up and help. I'm not worried about it. If I was worried about it, we wouldn't be doing this.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Because when we started, everybody'd say, when are you going to start? And I'd say, when we have all the money. And now, realistically speaking, I know that we can get started ahead of time.
Yeah.
So, and we're ready.
Yeah,
so
it's going to be
It's out there, and I've let 3 news stations interview me about it, so it's not a secret anymore.
No,
in fact,
it's not a secret.
Globe News called today, and they're wanting an interview today, so it's not a secret.
Yeah, no, and that's around $25 million already raised.
Yeah.
With the $5 million to go. So, well, it's going to be a lot of fun for. I know a lot of people waiting. Obviously, if you drive by Hollywood theaters, the Par 3 course out there, across from Randall High School, across the highway from Randall High School. That's the location, and it's going to be a gorgeous area there. Yeah. That's going to set it up. Can't wait.
It's going to be big. You can't imagine how big it is until you step out on that.
Yeah, it's a lot of turf, a lot of parking.
It's big.
But the parking is you guys are going to love the parking. That's one thing this man made sure, and that's not. That's a definitely added expense to that whole thing. But
there's 1,600 parking places.
1,600.
And
yeah.
And there'll be days that's probably not enough.
Yeah, yeah.
But you find me another place where there's 1,600 spaces. And
can't.
No,
you can't.
No.
It's awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
I
think it'll be a great viewing place for fireworks.
Yeah.
I'm just going to tell you.
You can see concerts and
yeah.
we could do some really cool stuff. I don't want a bunch of broken beer bottles or beer cans out there, but we could have some really nice outdoor events at this at this place.
Hey, this is number 25 Fieldhouse Podcast for us, Jimmy. We've started a tradition here. Once we reach that number, it's 25. Who's your favorite number 25?
I did my homework this week.
Yeah.
I thought he's going to ask me that question. There's a bunch of good ones.
See, 25, when you just hit your head, you're like.
So let me throw some at you.
25. Yeah, I'm ready.
I'm going to throw some at you.
I have mine.
So George Brett.
25, really?
Barry Bonds.
Wow.
Mark McGuire.
Okay. I didn't know Barry Bonds.
Who else was out there? There's 2 or 3 others, but when I went through my list,
George Brett wore 25?
he's in that list. I didn't think he did. I thought he wore 5.
That's what I thought.
But it had him in the list, so maybe at one time he did.
Okay.
And it could have been with any of them. But when I went through the list immediately,
25
I went, there's
was
my favorite.
Bonds. Okay. Who
Old
is it?
school, Fred Biletnikoff.
Ooh, Fred Biletnikoff.
Kenny Stabler days.
Mr. Stickum.
George Blanda, yeah.
Yeah. Wore all this. Back in the day, you could wear Stickum and George, and he was amazing.
Tough. He was just tough.
Yeah, 25. I'll never forget that. Wore a single bar,
Yep.
single bar face mask, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
Skinny. No, it wasn't. I mean, was not your prototypical built wide receiver.
Yeah.
But if you threw him the ball, he's going to catch it.
Yeah, and he had Stickum on, the famous Stickum
Yeah.
all over him. So my 25 is going to be, and they may have played against each other a couple of games. I don't know. Maybe my guy's a little later, but Haven Moses.
Yep.
Heavenly
Broncos.
Haven Moses for the
Broncos.
Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
He was a wide receiver as well, and wore a quarterback's like the double, not the
Yep.
single, but he wore a quarterback face mask back in the day.
Peyton's got your Broncos playing well.
Yeah, they kind of stunk it up against the Chargers, but
They're still trying to, yeah, but
they're better. They're better.
he's got a rude waking homecoming this weekend
With New
going to the
Orleans.
Saints. Yeah.
Yeah. I find those stories interesting when they start talking about him. Like, oh, this guy hated Peyton. This guy loved him. The guys you might have thought that didn't like him do like the owner. They're still good friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even though it didn't end the way they all wanted. But yeah,
I think about our conversation with Ryan. I mean, Ryan Palmer, is real big buddies with him and got
Great
to go on the
buddies.
sidelines and wanted to hand that handset back. I keep thinking about that every time I see Peyton on the sidelines now. I think
why?
about it.
Here's the deal, though, Jimmy. Why would they make it so complicated? Why not free up your quarterback? Who are they fooling?
It's
Why-
a
you
game.
know-
It's gamesmanship.
Yeah,
And
but to
at
hear
that
that
level,
pl-
to pick off, picking signals off and things of that nature, they're just changing.
I just
up
think
the
you're
language.
confusing your young quarterbacks and make it way harder than it has to be.
Yeah.
But they believe in it, so we'll see what happens. So I love that. Hey, we haven't had a chance since we last kind of did these one-on-ones, but Pete Rose passed away. Speaking of a great baseball player and a famous number and things like that. And didn't make the Hall of Fame, obviously, because of his actions off the field, gambling, on and things like that. Will he now be in the Hall of Fame since he is deceased?
That's a great question. I'm going to start here and then we'll get back to maybe an answer. But we went to a sporting goods conference with Roger Roundtree and the groups from Buck Sporting Goods several years ago. And I'm just going to say it because this is how I felt about it. We stayed at Mandalay Bay, and they have a shopping center attached to that place. And one day we had some time. We're just walking. And they had one of those places that has all the memorabilia,
Yeah.
sell. And guess who's sitting in there signing autographs?
Pete Rose.
Guess how many people were at the table? 0. And I never felt more empty at that very moment, just for a split second, about this guy's probably one of the all-time greatest hitters there ever was, and there's nobody sitting here talking to him, anything. He's just sitting in this memorabilia store by himself. He did not look good.
Yeah.
And I just hated it because I grew up watching the Big Red Machine.
Yeah.
I grew up watching them, and Johnny Bench, his comments about him, those are the things that I appreciate because he was awesome. He was as good as it got at the plate back in the day. Does he make the Hall of Fame? Probably not, unless somebody comes in there and just says, "Let's get it over with." It they just get beat on so much. But I mean, you've got others who are going to be in the same boat, that whether it be from performance enhancing drugs or whatever, they're not going to get in either. And so you open Pandora's box, and you're going to have to let the others in too. I don't think he gets in. Do I think he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame? Hands down. Should they? I'm glad I don't have to make that decision.
Yeah, I guess Rob Manfred, the current commissioner, gave Pete a chance to come clean and tell us, say, look, I did all this, and then we'll let you in. And Pete refused to do it, and basically Rob said, as long as I'm alive, you'll never be – as long as I'm a commissioner, you'll never be in the Hall of Fame. So My thought is this: it's not the Hall of Good guys.
No.
Okay, there's a lot of trash athletes that are in the NFL Hall of Fame, and by trash I mean it's a little strong word, but it's character-wise they're trash guys, and it's all about them. It's all about the money. It's all about getting ahead of people and things like that. There's a lot of those guys in the Hall, and in both Hall of Fames. You cannot prove who did and did not do all the steroids. My argument is the guy who was hitting 7 home runs and decided to take steroids and hit 20, he's not going to be in the public eye because he's not hitting 60 and 50. So you're not going to know about him. You know what I mean? So that's my thought. Let him in. Yeah. Let him in. Pete Rose, while he played the game, you're accusing him of things he did after he played the game as a manager. Now, he was in baseball. But here's the deal. Put it on his plaque. This guy gambled. One of the cardinal sins of baseball, it's on every locker when you walk in there's a big sign on the door, no gambling. So I get things like that, but you put in Barry Bonds, you put in Roger Clemens, you put in Pete Rose. It's a farce. You're trying to play God. You're like, you sinned, but you're not allowed in. You sinned, but you're in. You can't tell me.
We all live in glass houses.
Yes, exactly. And I'm just going to tell you it's wrong. It's wrong that Pete Rose is not in the Hall of Fame. And do I think he was the greatest character off the field? No, he proved it right here in Amarillo. The YMCA, the Young Men's Christian Association, get that title, brings in Pete Rose. And he's meeting with the players, great guy, young kids, but he's cussing up a storm, dropping F-bombs on 8-year-olds. You know what I mean? But that's who Pete Rose was. So let's give him a little credit for being himself. Let's call him an idiot for not knowing his audience, okay? But that doesn't mean he is not a Hall of Famer. If you have the most hits all time in baseball, you're a Hall of Famer. If you have the most home runs, you're a Hall of Famer. If you won 300 games on the mound, you're a Hall of Famer. So it's a farce who they're allowing in and who they're not playing holier than thou. Yeah. They are playing the hand of God, and you cannot do that in any shape or form ever.
So, point well taken. And now you've led into something I'm probably gonna get my head chopped off next Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame committee meeting we have. So the very first time I came to one of y'all's board meetings for the Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame when we became the administrators, I'm just going to use Lombard as an example.
Yeah.
I said, why do y'all not go ahead and just put him in? And the answer was, we don't put anybody in until they're retired because there's always the possibility that they do something that dishonors the hall. That was the answer I was given. Well, since the time we've taken over this, there's been questions about folks who were in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've brought those to the table.
Yeah, yeah.
And
you know me. I vote for all those to go in.
Yeah. And so, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, do they deserve to go in on their merits for their profession and their craft? And when you have an extraordinary, like a Joe Lombard, at that time, Jan Barker, how many state championships did she have? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Get them in because, and this is my biggest fear, God forbid we lose them.
Yeah, okay.
And we don't get the opportunity to do it in person. That's my biggest fear because coaches, I've said this before, coaches are either going to retire or get fired, and I'll add the third one, or we lose them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Coach Culpepper, the Bushland volleyball coach,
deserves to be in.
He should be in.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so that's my point. When they're a slam dunk,
put them in.
Golly, that's a draw. You got their current players, their current fans, their current everything.
We'll have to discuss that. I like that at the next meeting.
But it fell on deaf ears the first time. So those of you on the Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame committee, I still stand by my original stance on that deal. We got folks out there that deserve to be in right now, and we ought to get them in.
Yeah, no, I like that. Jerry Jones made news this week. Not only the team played horrible against the Lions. Jimmy, are the Lions that good? The Cowboys that bad?
Both.
Okay.
I think the Lions are extremely good. They're well coached. I mean, my gosh, just look at their head football coach. How would you not get Jack to play for him?
Yeah.
he's a motivator. And here's the deal at that level: you got to have a motivator. The day Dan Quinn left for Washington, I went, uh-oh. And then he's got Kingsbury as an offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
He's got the right pieces, and those guys are playing for him. They don't have all the tools in the toolbox yet.
Yeah.
But look out.
Yeah.
Because Quinn's a motivator. I mean, he'd have that hat on backwards up in that Cowboys defensive coordinator
you're
spot.
right. It's a good point.
Those guys, some of these younger guys, Tomlin still has it. He still has that moxie.
He does.
And, you've got to have that in you. I'm sorry, McCarthy doesn't. And he's in charge of the pinnacle of organizations. They got to have one of those guys. And I don't know who that guy is.
Yeah. We'll get the Lions coach.
But you've got to have
Glen Rose, Texas, high school
played for the Cowboys.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to have one of those guys. But when you've got a Jerry Jones that can't.
Jerry's birthday was Sunday, 82 years old, okay?
Yeah, he got.
And so he goes on his normal Tuesday morning radio show, KRLD there in Amarillo, in Dallas, excuse me. But it's a weekly visit they have, and that is the station of the Cowboys. Okay, he's getting asked legit, calm questions by these two guys who probably live paycheck to paycheck.
Sure.
Okay, Jerry's and Jerry literally bullies them and basically says. They were questioning how you built the team. Do you regret the way you built the team? Did you make mistakes the last 2 years in not signing some of the guys you should have? And he goes, of course, you're going to make, I make mistakes every day in the business I'm in. But then he has to go in and say, with these questions, I could find somebody else to ask these questions. Meaning, your job, I could get you fired today and we could take the Cowboys and put them on a different station. Absolute bully tactics with a legit, and they weren't screaming at him or anything like that. Here's a man who loses a game to the Lions, walks out of this palace that he owns, 90,000 fans in there, gets in his helicopter, flies to his house in Highland Park I think it's next to or near a former president, Mr. Bush, and goes into his mansion
and counts his money
and pouts. Okay, how is it right? Speaking of Hall of Fame, he's in it, and he's a bully. Yeah. How can you let a human being bully another like that? Threatening to take their jobs.
All you have to do is look at the sideline.
Because that's how they do their work every day of their lives.
Look at what's going on between Dak and CeeDee Lamb. It's not good, and those are your two leaders. They've got more potential, but they don't have anybody getting in the middle of them. They don't have that person bringing them in, saying, back to basics, guys. We're going to fix this. CD, you're going to get the ball. Dak, you can put the ball where it belongs.
Yeah.
But they don't have.
Yeah.
At that level, can you imagine having to go in and motivate millionaires all day long?
Well,
I can't.
The coach, yeah. No, I don't have any problem with it. I mean, just do it.
Yeah.
People have to motivate everybody that making minimum wage as well. So just do your jobs is my thought. But Jerry Jones, we learned how he runs his business. If you don't agree with me, you're fired.
Out. Yeah, you're out.
Yeah, I think it's selfish. I think it's bully tactics. I wish that GM or the owner of that station, and I know they need the Cowboys, but I think they would gain a lot of listenership if they stepped up and said, you cannot bully my employees.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Step up.
I agree. I mean,
step up. That was on my mind
one
today.
of my mantras, it's not hard to be nice to people.
Yeah.
It's just not hard to be nice to people.
Well,
and
just do it.
And, I'll give you a point. I'll give you a case in point. And I'm going to go on the record and say this because it's already out there for the folks that know it. We had a situation Monday. We have an esports program. I'm just going to put it out there. We have an esports program for young kids that aren't necessarily interested in typical sports.
Yeah.
And we've been running this esports program for, what do you think, Maddie, a year and a half, 2 years now probably? And it's gone well. And it's like we rent gyms from the school district or we rent fields from the city or whatever the case may be. We have a group here in town that has a gaming institution, and we use their facility, and those kids go and play esports games. We're scheduled to start the fall league Monday night, and at 4:50 in the afternoon, one of my staff members gets a phone call from a parent saying, we just got a call and said that the esports program was canceled. We're like, what? So try to call the individual in charge of the facility down there. Jerry is there waiting to get the shirts to the kids as they get there. Nobody's there. Doors are locked. And long story short, immediately we divvy up the kids, and we're calling parents, telling them, don't go tonight. And it's almost too late at this point in time because it's almost time to be there. And we're telling them, we've got some conflicting information here, but don't go tonight. Don't waste your time going tonight. But nobody's called us. Nobody's called us. We market the program.
Yeah.
We register the kiddos. We take the parents' money.
Yeah.
We pay the institution for the facility a big chunk of that.
Yeah.
And, in fact, the most of it. Truth be told, it's a $90 session fee, and $70 of it goes to that company. We keep $20 for our part of it.
Uh-huh.
That's the God's honest truth. And nobody's contacted us.
To this day still?
Oh, after the fact.
Okay.
After damage is already done.
Yeah.
Sure enough, it's closed, done, but nobody let us know. The day of the first night of play.
The business is closed?
The business is closed.
Oh, wow.
You know, and I don't wish that individual ill will. This guy's a good guy, and he is, and has good intentions, but he just got in over his head. But dadgum, you got to communicate with people.
Yeah.
But I told him on the phone, I'm not going to badmouth you. I'm not going to, hang you at the courthouse square. You got to communicate though.
Yeah.
Because we look bad. It makes us look bad, and he knew that.
Anytime you're failing, it's really hard to step up to the plate.
But he knew when he woke up Monday morning this wasn't happening.
Yeah.
Should have let us know, and we could have taken care of it. End of story.
He knew a week. He had to know way before then. Yeah.
But I told him, I said, I'm a guy that gives a lot of grace.
Yeah.
And I do, and I'm telling him right now, and he knows this. I've already had this conversation with him. I give a lot of grace, and there's no ill will on my part. But that day, to make our staff look bad, that's when my little rattles on the rattlesnake start going off, because we don't look good. You can't have that.
He's not going in the Hall of Fame then, is he?
Not today. Not today. Neither.
You're not that
Neither
much,
am I for the conversation I had with him. So
not that much
okay.
grace. Yeah. You got anything else on your mind today?
Oh, let's see what I wrote down. Got Dodgers 2-1 up on the Mets. The Guardians, I still can't call them the Guardians. The Yankees are 2-0 up.
Yeah, you can't name a Major League Baseball team the Guardians. Come on. So, yeah.
But here we are. We're late into –
all right, it's too late.
Yeah.
In my opinion, baseball should be over.
Truth be
it's
told.
getting cold in Amarillo. It's a warm weather game. It's ridiculous to be playing in November. I think Game 7 would be in November if it reaches Game 7. New York World Series? No, yes.
I don't think it's going to happen.
No, it might not happen, but are you rooting for it?
Oh, it'd be awesome. Yeah. Save a lot of money for a lot of people.
Mets fans are hurting, but they deserve some love.
Yeah.
They're always a second fiddle to the Yankees, so I would like to actually see that happen.
Texas, Georgia this weekend. Who you got? At Texas.
I know. I'm so impressed with Texas is what he's done. I'm not.
Me too.
I'm a football fan, so when you see him play like that, crazy thing about that was one of the worst Red River games I've ever seen. When Texas scored first, OU was done. Yeah. We all knew they're not coming back, even just 7-0 early in the game. You know what I mean? I was like, are you kidding me? It's incredible the disparity between the talent of those two teams that quickly. And I realize it ebb and flows. But when you have Sark, you have a guy who coached in the SEC. He knows you got to build those defensive lines, depth, build that offensive line depth. That's what Texas has now. And they're always going to have skill guys. Yep. And then Ewers wanting to Ewers started bad. Nobody freaked out. Yep. You didn't see anybody chewing him out like, we're going to put in Arch, man, and get your act together. No. Yep. They're all calm. Texas is very good. However, Georgia, they live in this world like nobody else does. Alabama and Georgia live in this big game world, Jimmy. So they always say to beat the man, you got you know how that saying is in wrestling. But
did you see Kirby Smart?
But it's going to be Texas.
Did you see Kirby Smart at the end of the Alabama game?
I didn't.
So, tunnel,
Yeah.
players go in. He stood there and made sure that every one of those kids got a hug, a tap on the head, get your head up. We're still a good football team. I mean, he is the master of motivation.
By the way, they released the top – I love that comment, but they released the top 25 college football paid coaches. Top 12 I saw personally. 12th was $9 million. Okay, there's a tie at $9 million. Kirby leads it at 13, and $13 million to coach a college football team.
Wow, that's a pretty good gig. You got to win, though.
You do have to win. You do have to win. Yeah, no, that's good. Who do you have? I have Texas.
I want Texas to win.
But you think it's Georgia?
I can't bet it. I just can't.
Yeah.
It's like when Saban coached. I couldn't bet against him.
All right, we'll bet.
I'm not a gambler.
We'll bet a Mountain Dew and
but
a
I'm
tea
just,
on this.
I'm just not. I hope Texas beats them. I really do.
There's no hoping they're going to beat them. I'm just telling you.
I hope so.
They're that good.
I hope you're right.
They are that good at all
I just can't
positions.
go against Kirby Smart. Hadn't gone against him yet.
It's going to be a tough game. You know, if Ewers throws a couple of pick sixes, things like that, yeah, of course Georgia's going to win.
Bama's played 2 bad games in a row.
Yeah.
They were lucky to win the other day. LSU.
How would you like to be that coach's shoes right now?
No, thank you.
You never replace.
You don't do
man.
that. Yeah, it's tough. My dad always told me, he said, "Don't ever follow the best."
No, I mean, and Saban, my gosh,
you know, and then LSU's got by the hair of their skin, you know, the last couple of weeks too, and so they've got a big game. I'm trying to think who they have this week. They're on the road.
Top 12 with 12 teams. I think it's not as critical. You know, where it's not as magnified now. Each game, each week. You know, you can have a slip up and still get in the 12, and I like that. Now, if Army and Navy, whoever wins that game,
how about that kid from Abernathy?
Yeah, he's the real deal at Army. So I've got to ask you though, if both of them, one of them runs the table, which would include beating Notre Dame. They better be in the 12.
Oh, they've got to be. Yeah, they've got to be. You know, I always told Corey Cooper.
They're only taking one.
I know.
And Boise State's awfully good.
I know. I've always told Corey Cooper my favorite event I ever went to was watching her play volleyball in Nebraska until I went to the Army-Navy game. And that was a treat.
That's pretty cool.
It was a treat. And it's special to watch those kids, what they do before, during, and after the game, and the people that are there and the affinity to the country.
Yeah,
Kid from Abernathy, one of the best football games I got to see in the high school, wasn't my favorite, but it was one of the top. Was when they played Canadian down at WT.
Yeah,
that was a great high school football.
Yeah, he was the star there. Yeah,
but, played linebacker and played quarterback. He was
and they won him. You know it. I mean, Canadian beat him, but it was a great game.
He's having a heck of a year.
Yeah, he's a great player.
He's on the Heisman list.
Yeah, he should be. You know, I have a Heisman vote, so we'll see what happens on that. We'll have to talk about that sometime. But
wow.
I will say this: growing up, I sold Cokes at Air Force games. You know what I mean, to make money. So I loved when the Army and Navy came in because the place was packed. But to this day, I will. I'm not always famous for being early. That's obvious, and I'm trying to improve on that in my life because I when I was at Joe Bain's funeral, and I guess it's a popular saying that somehow eluded me my entire life. If you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm trying to – but anyway, if I go to an Air Force game, Jimmy, I definitely get there at least an hour early. I love seeing the cadets walk onto the field and then empty into the stands. It's one of my favorite things. And then seeing the Falcon fly as well.
Yeah.
But just seeing them march the field, you know, it just does something for me. I don't know what it is, but so I'll get there an hour before that game starts for sure.
Have you been to an Army-Navy game?
I have not been to Army-Navy.
Go.
Yeah, but I've been to Army, Air Force, Navy, Air Force.
The formations coming in are incredible. But what's really cool is after the game, the losing team has to go over to the winner's side as they sing their song, and then they do the opposite. They go to the other side, and they are all for one because they're the ones protecting us.
Yeah, no, that's
cool. And
it's
impressive.
That is cool. That's good.
And I don't care what your political affiliation is to see the President of the United States flip the coin toss.
Yeah.
I mean, it's impressive. From top to bottom, it's the most impressive thing.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you what, even at the Air Force Academy, at the Academy, it's impressive.
It's top
It
to
touches
bottom.
my heart.
Yeah, those
when
guys
that
are
happens.
awesome.
I've seen Army, Air Force, obviously. And those places were packed, so you made a killing selling Cokes when those. Yeah. That's why I like them to this day.
I got 2 shout-outs and one more thing. Gifts from the sky is what I call them sometimes, but I'm not going to mention them by name because they would shoot me. But when you get a $15,000 check in the mail from a friend, a lifelong friend, just writing you a letter saying, "Hey, keep doing what you're doing." He believes in Kids Inc. and it was just because it wasn't for any other reason. He just one of those days because, and he has the means to do it. Those are special days. That happened.
You wanted this towards Rock Rose?
That happened this week. Yep.
Wow.
And that's good stuff.
Yeah, great stuff. What do you mean?
And so, and then I've got to shout out because Craig Wilfong, our VP, is down there on a scissor lift right now, about 20 feet up in the air. We're changing out all the lights in the Sportsplex, and he's helping the company do that so we can save a little money on labor. And it's unbelievable. We have 38 light fixtures that have to be changed out, and they put 2 of them up yesterday, and the difference it made is unbelievable because we're putting LEDs in. Holy cow!
Yeah.
So that field is going to be bright when it's all said and done. So
LEDs are amazing.
Oh yeah, they're incredible.
Dick Bivens put them in, in the last winter.
Yeah.
So if you go to a football game now, that's what you're seeing. Cool.
We've all of these lights in our building we changed out years ago to LEDs, and just the savings.
Yeah.
Is very, very noticeable in our electric bills, and so. But shout out to Craig for getting up on that lift again. I mean, this guy's had hip replacement.
I know, yeah. I love that.
I watched him climbing up and off that list yesterday. I said, "Easy there, hip boy." And,
he's in the Kids Inc. Hall of Fame.
Yeah, no doubt.
You know what I mean?
25 years
for
here,
sure.
Been right with me. So my question to you.
Yeah.
If somebody came in and said, "All right, you and Rhonda get to go anywhere you want to go today," where are you going?
Today, like in
something you got everything on your schedule's been cleared for the next week or two.
Like
they're
anywhere in the world?
They're going to pay for you to go wherever you want to go. Where do you want to go?
Oh, man, that's a good one. That's a great one. Well, Maui's got to be on that list. My sister had a condo there, and we spent a lot of time. Yeah, I know. And if you got there, you got it for free. So I've experienced Maui. I would do that any day of the week. Qualicum Beach on Vancouver Island, highly underrated. I suggest if anybody gets a chance to go to Vancouver Island.
I've heard Vancouver's beautiful.
It's unbelievable. But I've never been to Spain. I want to go to Spain. That's where we
Father
would fly
Tony
to.
just spent 3 weeks walking Spain.
And what's the?
Oh, he's been before. They walk anywhere from 15 to 25 miles a day walking across the country.
What's he say? Just incredible.
Well, yeah, it's just
yeah.
He sent pictures every day.
I met a man who worked for the New York, the largest newspaper in Spain. We sat next to each other at the Masters. That's one cool thing about going to the Masters. You meet a lot of international people. Well, his obviously newspaper has changed, but that's where he lives now in Milan, and so
wow.
Yeah. So I got a place to stay if I can get there.
I don't even have a passport. I've never had a passport. I'm 63 years old.
You've never had one?
Never had a passport.
Wow. Yeah, mine's expired, so I'd have to get that done.
Yeah, I've never had a passport.
Let's throw it back at you.
Oh, hands down. I've always said this. If you could just take me in a helicopter and drop me in the middle of Vatican City.
Ooh, really?
Yeah. Father Tony's going to take me there. I'm going to go.
Wow.
And
okay.
I really would like to go. I was in high school when Pope John Paul II became the Pope.
Yeah.
And I became enamored with him. I became enamored with the process when
Yeah.
Pope John Paul was elected, and then a month later he died. But the white smoke and the cardinals,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
conclave, I became enamored with that. I was going almost time I was going to college, and was not Catholic at that time. And but Pope John Paul II, he was an athlete.
Yeah.
His history, the whole time that he served, he was just one of those cool guys to me.
Yeah, no, that's a good one.
And I would have loved to have gone then just to catch a glimpse of him, but no, the whole Rome and Vatican City, I would like to go see all of that, the history there, and yeah, if I could.
That's cool. I like that a lot. I mean, it would be fun to
getting from here to there. It won't be my fun part. Like I said, if I could just get dropped in, somebody pick me up and drop me back at the house, that would be ideal. But yeah, someday I got to go. And Father Tony said he'd take me. So
maybe we can talk Jerry Jones into you using his helicopter that day.
Yeah, I think I'll look.
How would you like to live like that? Would you?
Have you flown in a helicopter before?
Yeah, one.
It's awesome.
It is awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It is an awesome.
Kim and I did that in St. Louis one time. We were there, and they had right there on the Mississippi River. They said I think we paid $75 a piece, and they took us around the whole city. And this is how long ago it was. They were setting up for WWF wrestling at the baseball stadium.
Yeah.
And flew us over that, and you could see the ring and all the setup down there is pretty cool. And then, of course, flew us over the arch, and of course we went up in the arch. And but yeah, helicopter. Chris Lyons has his own helicopter. I've been seeing footage of him flying it around here lately.
Is that right? Yeah.
That was awesome, riding around in a helicopter.
I was working at the Globe News, and a guy named John McEnroe and Vitas Gerulaitis were playing an exhibition here.
Yep.
But they were going to take him out to Boys Ranch to meet the kids out there and answer questions and inspire with them. So their agent or somebody didn't show up, with them, so they had an extra seat. And so I'm watching General Hospital. I was a big General Hospital fan at that time. Waiting for the I'm watching General Hospital with Vitas Gerulaitis and Jock and McEnroe. No way I told him I was a reporter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the helicopter comes. We get in and we fly to Boys Ranch in that thing, and get out. And then they found out I was a reporter, and they were just like, "What? You didn't tell us?" I said no, but it was that's my claim to fame.
Years ago, when I worked at WT, we had an alumni event out at the Bivens Ranch, which is between Dumas and Amarillo at the time, on the east side, kind of back off the road a ways. And we were all out there, big chunk. We had the regents from A&M in, and all of a sudden this helicopter comes in, and it kind of had to land on a little bit of a side of a area there. It's Paul Engler. Him and Eddie Scott got out. Him and Eddie Scott got out of the helicopter, and Paul landed his own helicopter out there. That was impressive.
That is impressive.
Yeah, it was pretty
cool.
cool.
When we landed at the old Sheridan, coming back from Boys Ranch, they actually, to their credit, they actually enjoyed it. Yeah. McEnroe really enjoyed it. Said, "Look, I'm staying for dinner. I know you guys got to get the helicopter back, but so we flew it and we landed at the old Sheridan.
Yep.
And the might have been my boss at that time. One of the publishers of the Globe News says, "Look, my wife's got her car here, so just act. They're gonna come out and think somebody famous. Just get out and run to the car. They're not gonna know who we are." So we did that. Like,
that's
we were
funny.
Real famous
That's
people.
Funny.
Yeah. So
good stuff.
Yeah. Hey, and then next pod, I want you to think on this one. Trick or treating's coming up, and I know you've got grandkids, so it's going to be a big deal for them. But what was your go-to back in the day? You save that answer for next time, okay?
Okay.
What you had to get.
Okay.
Or if it wasn't a good trick or treating.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this today. Really, really enjoyed your insight and everything today, Jimmy. Always do when we go one-on-one. It's a lot of fun. Thank you, Maddie, for all you do. The production is amazing. We get a lot of compliments on that when I'm out in public.
Yep.
Really do. So, hey, this is the Fieldhouse Podcast. It's a production of the Kids Inc. Sports Network, and we'll see you soon.